Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
An incredible event coming up June 5th and 6th at the Radisson Hotel in Salt Lake City, Utah. jbs.org/conference/SLC26 is where you get your tickets to ride. Anyway, it's going to be a great conference held by the John Birch Society. Bunch of great speakers. We've had on several. We'll have on several more before the event. I'm telling you, it's a fly-in for event. It's that good. Check it out. jbs.org/conference/SLC26. Speaking of that, Eldon Stahl with me this broadcast half hour, talking about honest money, talking about all kinds of great stuff. Eldon Stahl, field coordinator for the John Birch Society, with me. Now, Eldon, I did an interesting experiment. I want to get your take on it, too. Let me tell you what I asked ChatGPT and I asked Claude. I asked them both the identical question. I'm going to tell you what I asked them. I'm going to tell you the response that I got, and then I want your take on one, the AI engines, and then two, your take on the whole discussion point in general, okay? So I said to Claude and ChatGPT, I said the exact same question. I said, hey, it seems to me that Congress has been the worst since Donald Trump took office virtually 18 months ago. And it seems like we have a do-nothing Congress. They're always on recess. They've got infighting. They're spending us into oblivion. They go into Congress poor. They come out rich. I mean, it just seems to be an absolute disaster. Is it the biggest failure in Congress we've ever seen? And that was kind of my statement and question. And so ChatGPT came back and said the following. First off, Sam, you're wrong on one point. It's only been 16 months, not 18. Okay. And the reason I kind of laugh at that is because, okay, it's 16 since Trump took office, factual, yes. But since Congress took over, a little bit earlier, a whole month before the president did, I guess since I said because since Trump, okay, I get it. But at the same time, the congressional session started before. So we're kind of debating semantics a little bit on that. Also, remember, they get elected in November. And so they have several months they could put together their kind of pre-thoughts so that they can hit the ground running too. And we ignore that too if we just, so anyway, timing is the only thing I really got an argument out of ChatGPT about. It wanted to correct my timing slightly. And my response is, okay, it's nuanced, but I get your point. All right. But then here's what ChatGPT said, and I found it interesting. Congress, under Trump's second term, has been gridlocked, costly, and internally divided. Since January 2026, Congress has produced, since 2025, so since January 2025, my bad, has produced relatively little major legislation, presided over the longest full government shutdown in U.S. history, added trillions in projected deficits, they say through major tax and spending legislation. They've fought over internal rules, and they have watched Trump-backed forces defeat one of the most conservative GOP congressmen in history, Thomas Massie. And then it basically finished by saying, you're for the most part right. So that was ChatGPT's response. Claude gave a different response. Claude came back and said, Sam, let me put this in an accurate framing. You're close to right, but not quite. And then they said, they did pass this beautiful, big, beautiful bill. I said, yeah, that's part of the spending. So then it said, yeah, I guess you're right on that too. But here's what Claude said. Bottom line, Sam, your characterization is directionally accurate on most specific factual claims. The records long shutdown, the massive deficit adding legislation, the nuclear option rule changes, the ongoing trade scandals and trade manipulations, massive primary defeats are all real. Wow. They say they're all real and verifiable. The quote, worst do-nothing Congress ever, superlative, is the weakest part. This Congress did pass enormous legislation. It's just been, quote, highly partisan, slow on routine business, and consumed by shutdowns. But that's what I kind of said, right? Do nothing doesn't quite fit a Congress that just enacted a $3 to $4 trillion law. And I say, yeah, that's part of the spending I was talking about. They say this: a more defensible framing would be highly unproductive on bipartisan and routine work, dominated by partisan brinkmanship, the longest shutdown in history, record deficit spending, rule-breaking norm changes, ongoing self-enrichment scandals, and purges of internal dissenters. That version holds up to the evidence. Now, I find that interesting because it really didn't contradict me. It just said, oh, yeah, we passed a big, beautiful bill. And my response is, yeah, but that just relates to the out-of-control spending I'm talking about. Other than that, there's been no legislative except for that. Then I pushed back and said that. I said, hey, you're right, they did this spending, but it just spends us into oblivion. So then it came back and said this: I want to be straight with you rather than just agreeing because you pushed back twice. Yeah, I did because, I already mentioned the big out-of-control spending. Yeah, they did do that. But don't take that as a win. Take that as an out-of-control expenditure. If we're not careful, our credit rating is going to be tanked over this thing. What's accurate in your statement, then it says, 43 days long shutdown, check. Bullet, record debt, accelerating, not slowing, checked. Flagship legislation added, $4 trillion deficits, check. Senate changed its own rules by nuclear options, checked. Ongoing stock trading scandals and stock violations, check. Massie, constitutionally focused Republican, was primaried out with Trump's backing, checked. Significant infighting and dysfunction, checked. What's still not quite right, Sam, even after the second round, is the worst do-nothing Congress we've ever seen. This remains the weak link. Then it says this. Listen carefully, because I find this interesting. So that's the weak link. A Congress that passed the largest tax and spend legislation bill in modern history, a rescissions package, full-year appropriations, a Laken-Riley Act, confirmed nominees in blocks. And so that's not literally do nothing. You can fairly say that it has been destructive, fiscally reckless, dysfunctional on routine work, worse on bipartisan governance, but do nothing is, quote, the wrong word for a Congress that spent us into oblivion. This idea that they've been on vacation, well, they've been on typical recess time, not unusual vacationing. Okay, so it's not unusual that they're on vacation all the time. The dysfunction isn't from being absent, it's from what happened while they're present. That's even a worse allegation, but okay. So my answer, Sam, is your general frustration is largely accurate, and most of your specific factual claims check out, but completely accurate overstates it. That is, the do-nothing Congress and on vacation don't match the evidence, even though it is grounded in, quote, real facts. If you tighten the language to the following, you'd be accurate. You ready?
Okay.
The most dysfunctional, fiscally reckless, and norm-breaking Congress in modern memory, I'd say yes. The evidence supports that claim, Sam. So they say even if two pieces aren't 100% factual because they weren't on vacation a whole lot more than usual, but when you look at the shutdown and the vacation, now you kind of have to debate what a vacation is. If we're in shutdown, are we not on vacation? Or are we what? We can debate. But at the end, ChatGPT nor Claude could really argue with me in the end of the day. What do you say to all that, Eldon? Sorry to take so long, but I really think this is something important because I believe that where the problems are, that's where the solutions can be found if we look at it properly and do something, right?
Yeah, and it's you could say that yes, it would be an improvement if Congress did nothing because they're doing so much that it's bad.
When we get back, I want you to respond in detail. I want to give you plenty of time to respond to this too, because I think it's a critical issue. You could say, Sam, you've overstated this. Your absolutes and your 100% and do nothings don't fly. Okay, 100%, you might be right, but how am I wrong is the real question. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Are you watching what's happening in our country and asking, what can I do? Join the John Birch Society in Salt Lake City, June 6th, for a powerful one-day conference. The day includes a host of respected speakers, 2 meals, and meaningful connections. You'll gain clarity on the issues and walk away with practical steps you can take to your community. Reserve your seat today at jbs.org/SLC26. That's jbs.org/SLC26.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
Eldon Stahl with me, ladies and gentlemen, jbs.org. So I asked ChatGPT and Claude, hey, I think Congress is the worst we've seen. Came back and said, well, not quite, Sam, you're overstating it. But then they basically agree with everything I said. So we're talking about framing and word choice. You can't say do nothing because, man, they've done a lot of damage. Okay, good point. You can't say total vacation because, yeah, half their vacation that is extended was really a shutdown, not, quote, a vacation. So, but other than that, Sam, you're 100% accurate, they say. I don't know how to respond. What do you say, Eldon?
Well, one of the big problems actually is, to a large extent, Congress has been do nothing, but it's a little bit different than what you might think. What Congress has done over the years is to delegate its authority to organizations, agencies, people that have much less accountability directly or indirectly to the American people. And that's been done in the name of efficiency, especially coming out of the progressive era. But those philosophies have continued. It's kind of a Fabian socialist type of approach. And now Congress has become much less relevant to our lives, so what Congress actually does, unfortunately. And that has a vast cost to the average person.
Yes, because what we really have is legislation without representation at that point,
yes.
Right?
Yes. And we could give many examples, whether it's, the decisions on whether to go to war, the decisions on spending, on tariffs, on all regulations, all kinds of things. Those are things that are essentially on autopilot. And now we have lost much of our representation at the federal level, and we're bearing the fruits of it. But as Robert Welch, founder of the John Birch Society, said, Congress is the key. If we get Congress in line, we can turn around things. Just electing somebody that's maybe good as president is not sufficient in this case. Your most important elections are at the federal level are your congressional elections.
What do you think we do about it? Because look, when they can buy elections like they did to shut down Thomas Massie, look, that election was the most expensive primary in history, $32 million. Massie spent about a third of that. They spent 2/3, and they literally bought the seat using Israeli money, federal money, PAC money, you don't even know who it came from, kind of stuff. And they literally, in my opinion, committed election fraud. Now, again, you ask ChatGPT, did they commit election fraud by doing that? And they would say, no, that's not fraud. That's fine. But yet you and I are locked down to how much we can spend on an election, but yet they can, through PACs and dark money and international funding. I mean, you've got literally Israelis funding the replacement of Thomas Massie in partnership with Donald Trump. That's blatantly known and admitted to, but yet, of course, that's not election fraud. I mean, it's just fascinating how we define terms, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, I would say that the big problem here that needs to be addressed is election, or the education of the voters. Right now, most voters do not know who their congressman is. So the recent poll had 37% knew who their congressman was. A minority knew that their state even had a constitution. Okay, so this is very significant amount of ignorance on basic civics, and we have had for many years and been very successful with handing out and distributing scorecards through the John Birch Society. First it was the Trim Bulletin, now we have our congressional and state legislative scorecards. We know from tons of experience that you get out sufficient numbers of those, it changes the discussion from, oh, this person has a nice yard sign or has nice postcards or what have you, or shook my hand or is good looking, to how do they actually vote? And how does that square up with protecting my liberty, my freedom? When you get the discussion in that direction, the results change quite a bit. But it does take sacrifice from the people to do that, but not a ton, but it does take some organization. And that's why people need to organize. They have to know their neighbors. They have to get together with them and educate the voters to a level where they don't fall for these campaigns of putting up, just a bunch of postcards or something that paints somebody in a good or bad light.
All right, where do we go with this Thomas Massie thing? Because he was one of the most constitutional folks in Congress. You could say, well, that's a Donald one and Payback's a beast and poor Thomas. But at the end of the day, though, we're drumming out the most constitutional among our ranks. What's that going to do to the other congressmen and senators as they try to stand up? They're going to feel like, man, if I do this, it's politically suicidal and et cetera, et cetera. That's question one. What do we do about that? Question two, what do you think it's going to look like in Congress? Are we going to get to the point where nobody is above 90% anymore?
Well, what we do is we organize at the local level and we change the discussion within each congressional district. Those scorecards, if you go to freedomindex.us, you can get them either paper or electronic, and organize, contact your local coordinator or JVS coordinator or chapter leader and say, hey, I want to get this going. Because otherwise, yes, it will be a chilling effect to the congressmen. They will feel like they won't be able to stand up and just say, I don't exactly agree on everything the president says or what have you. That's not a good, healthy way to govern. You need to have, in a free society, disagreement is tolerated and it is a good thing.
All right. I don't know where to go with this except to say it really is going to put a chilling effect. We got Mike Lee over 90% doing pretty well. You got a few people, Rand Paul, but for the most part,
we put out a ton of scorecards on Mike Lee, and that helped him out, I'm sure.
We don't have anybody else really that solid, though, do we? There's a few people, but not many. Maybe Chip Roy?
Yeah, there's a few. Certainly needs to be more. Obviously, you might say there's more than there have been, actually, over the years. That constituency is growing in Congress, but
Is it growing faster than we're kicking them out? Green's gone now.
Whoever's got Trump's ear now, whether it's Mark Levin or whoever, is pushing him often in the wrong direction, and he's shooting at his base, trying to kill off MAGA, basically kill off the America First idea.
All right, I don't know how to respond to this one, but here it goes. Global health officials now warn that the Ebola outbreak is worsening. I didn't know we had a big Ebola outbreak, but there you go. The World Health Organization reported growing concern over the speed and scale of the Ebola outbreak in Central Africa as deaths and suspected cases increase. Do you want to respond to this one? Are we going to have another big old pandemic?
As they say, the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. So Ebola, certainly a very painful disease to ever get, from what I understand. And it is a real thing, just as COVID is and all that. However, what we saw with COVID was a vast exaggeration of the danger, and using that fear for government to grab power over the people. Do we want to go down that same road again with Ebola? How about we have a realistic outlook at it and do what we can about it? It is a real thing, but we don't need to shut down our economy in the name of getting rid of Ebola or whatever it is.
Amen to that. Well, healthcare costs are going up. Now the headline says healthcare costs continue to rise after Congress failed to extend subsidies. Millions of Americans are now facing higher healthcare expenses after lawmakers did not renew what they call enhanced COVID-era insurance tax credits. And so I don't know how to respond to all this, but healthcare costs are going up. Healthcare crises are, possibly imminent. Now the border is starting to have all kinds of problems. Tom Holman and company are saying, hey, their deportations are down, even though they want them to be up. But, there's just too much infighting and too much lawsuits, and lawfare, and Congress is stuck. I know they're do something, Congress. My characterization that they're do nothing is wrong. They've been doing all kind of things, just all the wrong kind of things to move the country forward. All I can tell you is I have hope in people going to the June 5th and 6th event for the John Birch Society, jbs.org/conference/SLC26, because I believe there's solutions there, Eldon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Members, non-members can come and just, get your tickets. And if you have any trouble, just give me a call, 605-999-1319. And I can help you out because they want your username and password to get into the shop JBS, and it's just easier if you call me and take care of that, or call headquarters, JBS headquarters, and do that way.
All right, give your email out too, Eldon.
Estahl, ESTAHL @jbs.org.
Estahl @jbs.org, or that number again?
605-999-1319.
All right, we've got a bunch of other guests coming up about this conference too, some of the speakers and more. Who are you looking forward to seeing the most?
I really like Phil Lyman. but I am looking forward to Catherine Austin Pitts. Phil Lyman is speaking.
All right, Phil Lyman, Catherine. Hopefully we can get both of those folks on as well. I know I'm his favorite speaker. The problem is I won't be there. I'm just kidding. All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. Eldon Stahl, jbs.org. Also, check out thenewamerican.com. It's one of the best, in my opinion, informative news reporting magazines on the market today. Thenewamerican.com. I'm Sam Bushman. For the great team doing a great job behind the scenes that never get the credit, thank you to all that you guys do. God save the Republic of the United States of America.